Hello, and welcome to Reimagining Love. I'm Dr. Alexandra Solomon. I have been studying relationships for over 20 years as a couples therapist, a professor, an award-winning author, and as a wife, mother, daughter, sister, and friend. Now, I'm inviting you into this space each week as I dig into some of the toughest and most fascinating relational dilemmas of our time. If you want to discover how to create vibrant and loving relationships in your own life, you have come to the right place. This is Reimagining Love. Hi there, welcome back to Reimagining Love. Today's guest is Christine Hassler, a master coach, facilitator, and speaker with 20 years of experience. She's the best-selling author of 3 books, and she's the host of a top-rated podcast, Life Coaching with Christine Hassler, where she not only hosts guests, but she also coaches people live on the show, a show, by the way, that she has been hosting since 2015. Today's conversation covers so many topics that are near and dear to my heart. We talk about the impact of family of origin dynamics and the power of inner child work and how we practice relational self-awareness, including with examples from Christine's life. I really enjoyed all the places that Christine and I went in this episode. We talk about how the wounded parts of our inner child show up in our present day relationships with all sorts of needs and expectations that we end up easily and readily projecting onto others here, i.e. our partner, without us even consciously knowing or noticing. And we talk about how we can shift in these tiny but powerful ways through relational self-awareness to change how we react, how we respond, how we relate in our relationships, thus shifting the dynamics as a whole. Christine gives us a window into her relationship with her partner, Stef, and the less healthy patterns that used to play out between them and how much work they've done to create shifts in them. It's a beautiful case study, and she shares with a lot of authenticity and specificity about what relational self-awareness looks like and how doing this work with ourselves can profoundly change our relationships. We talk also about how our professional roles and our work are yet another arena for us to notice and tend to old pain and to create new ways of relating to ourselves and to the world around us. Bottom line, we hold so much power to change our behavior, to advocate for ourselves in a more relational way, especially as women, and to shift our beliefs and our perceptions to bring more abundance and happiness of all kinds into our lives, all from within. So let's hear from Christine Hassler. Christine, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I've been over to your house a couple of times. I've been a guest on your podcast a couple of times.
Have.
This is your first time visiting me in my house. So welcome. I'm glad you came over.
Thank you so much for having me.
I was asking you before we started, how long have you been podcasting? And you've been at it for 11 years. That is fantastic.
Yes.
You're one of the originals.
And I love it. It's probably my favorite. I mean, social media is fine, but I'm not a huge fan. So I absolutely love podcasting.
Me too. I didn't really even know what it was going to be when I got into it. And I have really appreciated the conversations it has let me have and the ways that I'm able to connect with listeners that is different than a social media post or a webinar. It's a really pretty special format.
It is.
Well, my dear, I would love for you to start with the question that I ask all of our guests here on Reimagining Love, which is, Christine, how are you reimagining love in one of your important relationships these days?
Well, I can think of my 2 most important relationships are my relationship with my husband and my daughter. Well, and myself. That's kind of an always given type of thing. Mm-hmm. And my husband and I are really in this place of reimagining love without projection, which is like super tricky because we're just seeing how we're still projecting on each other. And there's still this expectation, conscious and subconscious, that we are going to be what we never got. We're going to get from the other person what we never got in childhood. Or the person's going to be a mind reader, or the person's going to, be able to fulfill all our needs, or that I am making him feel a certain way, or he is making me feel a certain way. And we're really exploring and unpacking that that's actually not the job of a relationship. Yes, we learn and grow from each other. And yes, we both have needs. But the person, I think there's love, right? And then there's being in relationship. And
Mm.
I'm realizing that you can love someone, but not be super great at being in relationship with them. And so I'm really looking at, how do I love this man and actually be my best self in relationship?
Mhm, mhm. And your primary mode of sitting with that question, how do I love this man and bring my best self to the relationship with him, is by studying all of the sneaky, subtle ways that you are at risk of projecting
Yep.
onto him and him onto you.
Yep.
Where,
Yep. Where I'm expecting him to be a certain way, where I still collect evidence for the ways in which he's doing something wrong, to put it simply, and where I am still thinking that my well being, my mood, my whatever can be, is dependent in some way on what he does or doesn't do.
That it can be independent, that you can create a solid place inside of yourself that is not at the whim or the mercy of how he is responding to you, talking about you, behaving. Mhm.
Exactly. And I don't expect myself to do this 100% of the time because
No. Mhm. Because, period, end of sentence, just
yes.
there's
But can I tell you the amount of freedom that's in this? Because I think we all in relationships can go into the victim archetype at
Yeah.
times.
Mhm.
And we can really, I said, collect a lot of evidence on where our partner's not doing things right. Now, if he was abusive, if this was a super toxic relationship, if he was
Yes.
cheating on me, spending all our money, and being a terrible father, we would have having a much different conversation.
That's right. That's right.
I'm talking about the relational stuff, and I have been working professionally in this field for 21 years, and one of my areas of passion is inner child work and developmental psychology. And I've seen over the years how much we come into a relationship, even if we've done a lot of work. Because Steph and I came into our relationship pretty personal growth arrogant. We're so evolved.
We've
We've
got
got
this.
this.
Yeah.
Ha, ha.
Yeah.
But I'm just seeing how much there's this younger part that's wanting whatever we didn't get from
Yeah.
mom or dad, or, our peers, or whatever it may be in childhood, how much we're just hoping that this partner who we fell in love with is going to give it to us.
I was just working on this morning with a couple, very similar around it's not, these are not kind of grave errors, but the amount of pain and activation that comes from the disappointment of I would have done it differently if the shoe was on the other foot, if the roles were reversed. And it's real hard for me to understand why you wouldn't behave towards me the way that I would behave towards you. That is one of the ways you were listing the projections of projecting the mind reading and the unmet need of childhood. And there's this other one that I think is really strong, which is confusion of why would you behave towards me in a way I wouldn't
Yep.
behave towards you? And that really primes us for that victim mindset, doesn't it?
It so does. I was just having this conversation with a client. She had a business arrangement. She thought she had a business arrangement, and the person she was working with ended up making a different choice and didn't have a conversation with her and went kind of behind her back. And she's like, I just can't believe the way she handled it. I never would have done it that way. And I go, exactly. That's exactly it. And this is exactly why you're so upset, is because you're projecting the way you would have handled the situation, the way you would have responded onto this other person. And it really hurts when we don't get that back. And it also can, if we allow it to, boggle our mind, because it's like, how could you not respond this way? It seems so clear to me.
Yeah.
And what I really, learned, especially in this is my second marriage, and God willing, my last,
Uh-huh.
we're really giving it our all. And luckily, I have a partner who is willing to do this work and have these kind of conversations with me because, like, actually understanding another human being and really getting into their world, I think is love. Not making excuses for them, but like
Yeah.
really understanding, wow, like that is totally the way you see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that when our partner does something differently than we would do it, to not, I think the default is if they didn't do it the way I did it, their way is less than, their way is deficient. And that there truly are, I mean, sometimes there are like slip ups and misses, but the slip up or the miss does not have to be tied to a character deficit. It does not have to mean they don't love me as much as I love them or the way that I should be loved. Right. So that is that like deep curiosity about my partner moves through the world differently than I do. And thank goodness, like that is that friction, right? That friction gives us a chance to stay curious. It gives us a chance to stay humble, but it's not easy.
It's not easy. And I think from my experience, both professionally and personally, this is the doorway to intimacy. And I feel like a lot of us say we want intimacy, but there's a part of us that's really terrified of it. Like truly, really terrified of really, really opening our hearts and really loving someone. And I think we've got these protective parts that fight to be right, that fight for our position, like I said, to collect evidence for how this person doesn't see us, doesn't love us, doesn't understand us, whatever it may be. And there has to be some payoff to that. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. I think a lot of us on a subconscious level, because we've been hurt in the past, childhood or other relationships, whatever it may be, there's a part of us that's like really guarded and really protective. And a lot of people would call it sabotaging behavior. I see it more as protective behavior
It's a nice reframe. Yeah. Yeah.
because, no one really wants to sabotage their relationship or sabotage anything. And then so much shame comes up when we think we sabotage something. Like, how could I purposely, destroy something that was good? But it really is these protective parts that were formed at such a young age. And that's what has really helped me is go, okay, even though my grown up adult self understands that what I'm thinking here isn't completely rational, there's a protective part that was formed when I was a lot younger that really believes that, blocking intimacy and withdrawing is a better idea because then I don't get hurt.
I'm thinking about like the tension between vulnerability and commitment. It's like when we're in these kind of tussles with a partner, and that self-protective urge, to pull away and shut down, it puts a ceiling on commitment, right? Because then we scare ourselves into, is it even possible? I need to kind of cut my losses here and pull back and pull away, break up, divorce, da, da, da. And it is like the very nature of the commitment that invites us to stretch and open, which doesn't mean that our partner has to be perfect, but it does mean that those moments are a chance to not only deepen connection with our partner, but actually they are a gateway to our own healing, right?
Yep.
It is in our partner doing something that creates frustration inside of us that we have a chance to look at that self-protective part. Like we can't heal that self-protective part unless it is activated. And when it's activated, rather than blaming our partner for their imperfections and second guessing our choices, we can use it as a chance to look at our own tender stuff.
Yeah, it's super tender and not also be wanting our partner to come rescue us, right? Because so I used to do this thing. I don't do it anymore when Stef and I would be in conflict. And he's more overt and I'm more covert. So he's more unbridled self-expression and I'm more withhold and build resentment. Perfect match.
Yeah.
And he used to do this thing where he'd blah, 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 and I'd go in my closet, close the door and cry. But I would cry loud enough so hopefully he would hear me and
Yeah.
then come and get me. Right. And
Mhm.
so it's like this push pull between like, I want to run away and like make you so bad, but I also want you to come and save me at the
Yeah.
same time. And my work, and I think what you and I are both committed to really helping people do is the only person that can save you in those situations is ourselves, right? And absolutely a partner can be there to reflect and hold space and to love. But this pattern didn't stop by him knocking on the door and coming and giving me a hug. Like I had to start choosing, I am not going to do that anymore. and do the inner child work with myself
Yeah.
so that in those situations, I started responding differently and started rewiring that reactionary pattern inside my nervous system and inside my brain
Mhm.
so that I could get out of that dance. Because I do think we know from research that in conflict, there's a hormonal hit that we get from it.
Yeah.
Even though we don't like it, it can be addicted. And I think in every relationship dynamic, there's some kind of conflict that you secretly enjoy, even though you may say, we fight about the same thing, we hate it. And like there's a payoff. If you're still in that same pattern, in that same dance, there's a payoff there. And in my relationship, and I've seen this with my parents, with friendships and businesses, and especially with my husband, it's us choosing that can get us out of that pattern. And it doesn't happen overnight, but wow, is it liberating to choose something different.
So can we drill down there a little bit more? When you were in this pattern of going into the closet and crying and hoping he would rescue, which is so relatable, I know, to me and to so many listeners. Yeah. And in him, the times that he would rescue you, then you would be spared the difficult feelings in that moment, but it reinforced the pattern in a way, right? So what was the shift? Like, what did you start to specifically do differently that would allow you then, maybe you still end up in the closet, but you're not there for as long and you go and find him? Like, how did you make those shifts start to happen?
Well, not only was I spared, but I was right. So when he would come get me and apologize, I'd be like, see, you're so mean.
Yeah.
Make him
Mm-hmm.
cry, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so there was a payoff in my performance.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't feel like a performance. It felt really
No,
valid at the
right.
time.
And the pain was valid.
Yes,
The
and
pain was
it
valid.
felt like my only option.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I really like. I really want to scream from the rooftops for people is it's easy to be, look at yourself 3 years ago, 5 years ago, even a year ago and be like, I can't believe I was behaving that way. But it really was the best you knew how to do at the time. It really was. So for me, like a big shift in me was having my daughter. And when I had my daughter, so much of my attachment stuff was really highlighted. And luckily, I started seeing a great therapist. Her name is Kate Kripke. She's now a coach and she specializes in high achieving women who become moms, which is like, hello, I'm your avatar.
There are several of us out there. Good.
Yes.
Good.
And I really worked with my attachment and my anxious attachment, my insecure anxious and my codependent patterning. And, I really wanted to be a great mom, the best I could be, and a great wife and have a great family and not repeat family of origin stuff from either side, from either myself or Stef. And so that really was in a lot of ways my inspiration to be like, no more. I think for me, I reached a point of this actually isn't working. I had to get really real with myself and be like, does this actually really feel good? No. And I had to go inside and talk to little Christine and really see what she needed in those moments. And really, what she needed in those moments was for me not to run away and cry, but for me to say, hey, I'm willing to have this conversation, but not in that tone. I will sit here and work it out with you, but go for a walk around the block first. She needed big Christine to hold her, like to hold in boundaries, to hold in loving boundaries, to be the adult. Because when Steph's screaming and I'm crying, there's no adults in the room.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And so that was really what she needed. And I thought, oh, she's so sad. I need to take her in the closet and protect her. But that actually wasn't protecting her. Protecting her was, coming back into regulation as soon as I can and just being like, no, like I'm not willing to have a conversation like this. And it was in doing those things and not collapsing because, I would collapse, fawning or freezing tends to be my trauma response. And it was breaking out of those and staying in the discomfort and not running into the habituated comfort and practice. And also having these conversations with my husband when we aren't triggered.
Yes. Yes.
So really being like, this is what I'm noticing I'm doing. And this is what I'm wanting you to do. And I don't want to do that. What in this dance do you not want to do? And so he and I have a lot of conversations, when we're walking. I think walks are the best place for couples to have conversations.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally
And
agree.
it was like, and we have the conversations and we learn, and it was just practice. It was just practice.
Yeah. And your commitment to making those shifts of not hiding away, but instead taking little Christine, and assuring her, I got you, girl. And we actually don't have to retreat. We're not going to retreat because we actually don't have to retreat. We have an alternative. What then did Steph do vis-a-vis the unbridled self-expression, which is the more kind of volume up fight response, right? You moved into freeze and fawn. He would move into fight, volume up, unbridled. What did your shift then invite him to shift?
Well, he really started taking more responsibility for the reaction, right? And he really started working with his younger selves and like re-educating the little boy inside of him that fighting and conflict is not the only way to communicate, because that's just what he grew up with. That was the language in his home. And so he had to tell himself, like, I can still be heard and I am still safe when I'm not yelling. Because when he feels threatened, his biggest security blanket is his bigness, right? Is his voice, is his aggression. Like, he's always been physically strong. Our neighbor next door just called him to move a boulder. Like, he's a strong guy. So that's always been his go-to, right? So he's had to learn my bigness, my strongness, my fight, because he's the fight. He's totally the fight, or the flight. Sometimes he's just like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm out of here. So again, perfect match. He had to learn that that isn't the only way to be safe.
Mhm. And there again, you are helping us by framing his fight response not as self-sabotage, even though it did certainly make his relationship tougher there for a while, but it was self-protective. It was him believing that that's what his young self needed, that he had to be big in order to be safe.
And I think, at times, and this is what I see a lot of, especially my female clients do, is they have so much compassion for their partner's trauma and wounding that they end up tolerating too much. Like, they make too much room for it, too much space for it. And so I think a thing that's really important to underline here is that it's so important to understand our partner and their triggers, but not make excuses for them because of it. Like, because just because somebody had a lot of trauma or a really tough childhood does not give them a permission slip to, have more leeway in the relationship in terms of, what the other person holds or tolerates. And that isn't a punishment thing. It's not a lack of compassion. It's really like, I want Steph to see me as my best self. I want anyone to see me as my best self. I don't want pity or sympathy or empathy. And when we really, even with our children, when our compassion goes too much into complacency and compliance, then actually we're not helping. That's not love. We're not helping that person be their best self.
So you are pointing us towards a middle ground. There's a middle ground between I am compassionate if I just accommodate all of this behavior because I know there's trauma there. That's the one end of the extreme. And the other extreme is F you, don't talk
Yes.
to me like that. I'm out of here. There's that beautiful middle ground of like, I actually love us too much to allow this to keep going this way. And that's what you learned how to do in the relationship was pause the conversation, invite him to go for a walk, invite yourself to regulate, and then continue. That's a mindful, intentional, one of us has got our nose above the waterline enough to say, let's pause here, tend to little Steph and little Christine and pick this up because we deserve to experience ourselves and each other differently than we're about to right now. So that's the middle ground. That's the middle ground between the, I got to take this because my partner doesn't know any better and the screw you, I'm out of here. It's a loving way.
And Steph and I did those two things.
Sure.
He did the screw you, I'm out of here. And I did that. I got to take this. So like, it's been deeply healing for, and I think a lot of partnerships are like this. We really match and meld well because our triggers fit so well together. And so coming to that middle ground has been, such a deeply healing experience for both of us.
and for you, I think especially as women, for us to learn how to advocate for ourselves in a way that is relational, to find a voice that is still a relational voice. Because I think oftentimes I see women go from the complacency to the screw you. It's like an overcorrection of moving, sort of too much from like abandonment of the self to total advocacy only for the self, and needing to come into, I can advocate for me in the context of this relationship.
Yeah. This is so important. It's one of the things I'm so passionate about, really supporting women. And is so many of us do this, like, I'm okay if you're okay thing. And then years down the road, we're like, well, you might be fine, but I am just not. Like you said, then we're out of there. And so learning to, because some of us wait until we're really, really angry to advocate. And by then, it's not just advocation, it's years of resentment and blame that we've just stored up that we're throwing at somebody, and our only solution we think is to leave. Right. And so one of the things that I think is so important in relationship is to not base our okayness on anybody else, like our partner, the world, our child, whatever it may be. And I think this is hard for humans. It's particularly hard for women because we're so wired. Like our energetic fields are so connected to other people. But when we can take 100% responsibility for our inner state while still, being an advocate for ourselves in the highest and healthiest use of that word, the power, the empowerment we can step into as women is phenomenal. It is. And when I see women step into this, it's not only their relationship shifts, not only their partnership shifts, but how they live, if they work, how they work shift, because they're no longer coming from a reactionary state. And it empowers and inspires more women to be the channel we are, right? And to really be these transmissions of love that we so naturally are, and know that love and truth go together.
Yeah, it's reactive and it's also contingent, right? Like I can be okay if my kid is okay. This is the number on the scale this morning. This is how my partner's mood is. This is how much money in my bank account, right? There's all these kind of conditions of I can be okay if all these things outside of me are okay.
Yep. And that's a hard one. I think that's the one of the biggest lessons of humanity is not to base our worth, our okayness on anything, because it really makes sense to think if you're broke, right? And you have no money in your bank account, to think if I had money in my bank account, my life would be so much easier. That in some ways could totally be true,
That's right.
right?
Absolutely. There's a reality
There's a
to that.
reality to
Someone who
that.
believes that is not making up
Right.
out of nowhere.
But what we have to remove from that is all the meanings we make out of that, right? Because it's hard to be generative. So I think it's like that dance between, the reality of a situation, but not letting the reality of the now situation be the only truth we buy into. Like using the money example. Like if I'm just buying into my life would be so much easier, like money would make my life so much easier right now. First of all, we're focused on the lack, right? We're focused on the lack. And we're also most likely making it mean my life is really hard right now. Something's wrong with me that I can't generate this money. How much longer is this going to go on? And so that most likely is going to put us into more of a hypervigilant response. And we're going to try to fix it from that place, right? So, yes, that may be true. That might be the reality. But what is also true in that situation? The universe is abundant. Here's the times that I've generated money before. It's like there's the reality of the situation, and then there's what we think about the situation. And our thinking and our perception of the situation is what's going to create the results we get. I remember when I was in grad school, the professor was telling a story about a man was walking down the street and he saw two men working. One was close to him, one was a little distance. And they were both like hammering and carrying cement blocks and just like working really hard with this big stone. He asked the first man, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm lifting this heavy stone and this is my job. And I can't believe I have to be out in the sun doing this." And he's just complaining. And then he goes to the second man, asks him the same question, "What are you doing?" And the man looks up at him and he says, "I'm building a cathedral." And it's like the two men, they're doing the same thing. Doing the same thing, but the way they're relating to their reality is different. So when we put ourselves in a victim place, like back to that victim conversation, oh, okay, the reality is I need more money. But when we're in a victim perception, it's going to be a lot harder to generate because we're perceiving ourselves and seeing ourselves in that victim place. And it's hard to find empowerment within that.
So what does, when we are exploring the possibility of generating more wealth, bringing in more money from a place of abundance, now we're not hypervigilant and reactive. What are we doing? What does it feel like? What does it feel like inside to explore how to earn money, how to create from a place that is anchored in abundance?
Well, in our world, we have money really wired into security. So when there isn't money, our sense of safety really feels threatened. And that's going to trigger a basic self inner child. It's going to hit that button of like not feeling safe, not feeling taken care of. So there can be some panicky feelings that come up in that. So the first thing is like really finding the ways we're safe and finding ways to make our system feel safe, especially our nervous system feel safe. And my gosh, there are so many free resources on the internet for just nervous system regulation, creating safety in your body, because your mind tends to believe what your body feels. And so if we can take the threat away, because not having money can feel like a big threat, which again can trigger any time in childhood we felt unsafe. So getting that sense of safety there to me is a foundation. Then it's looking at what we are generating. So we tend to, when we're in a place of lack, think more lack. But if we think about everything we do have and not just feeling gratitude for, but real appreciation and real like understanding, like this is like, I do have things. Like I'm not totally broke. I do have abundance. You know, it could be something as simple as 10 fingers. So really looking at that. And then, you know, the deeper cut is exploring the belief system and the wiring that's got you into a place of believing that you're unable to generate wealth, right? Because you usually have stories about money, about our abilities, about our capabilities, that until we update those stories, we tend to get more of the same. So it's sort of like that. To condense it, it's like first there's the foundation of safety. Then there's turning our head from everything that's missing to everything that already is, right? That's kind of the second floor. Once we get that basis, then we can look into, okay, like what am I really learning here? What are the beliefs that have perpetuated this dynamic? And how can I start to do the work to shift that? Because again, that panicky energy that happens if we don't have that safety level, we just get into the hypervigilance
Yes.
and just start doing. And anything we try to do in that panicky energy usually doesn't lead to stability.
I know this is one of the real truths in your work is that you really believe that everything that has to do with our careers and our ambition is much a space for personal development and growth as our relationships and our family of origin. That it is a powerful avenue. I'm thinking about all of the Reimagining Love listeners and myself, you know, who are these like highly ambitious, either small business owners or just people who are excelling in their work world, that this is another avenue to notice where are those feelings of panic and vigilance and not enoughness, and how is that shaping your business decision making, how you're relating to money and salary, income, all of that.
Yeah, because at the other, if we do kind of the spectrum again, another possible end of that is being in like the over busyness, right? And the hypervigilance of like so much going on and so much to manage. And sometimes that overachieving is also a mask, over or underachieving is a mask for, you know, insecurity and lower self-worth. And I've seen so many people who have achieved great things, but still feel empty because the achievement, the motivation under that achievement is, I need to prove myself. Right? And it doesn't matter how high you get. Like, again, that's the lesson we're all learning. Nothing outside of us is the key.
That has been a huge lesson for me the last few years running my small business. You know, I've spent most of my career as an academic working for an organization. And now that I work for myself and I have this team, I feel like it is, I'm just like holding up the mirror all day, every day. And one of my really big learnings was that I have a long-standing pattern of taking a success and being like, okay, fine, we did it. What's the next thing? Like not even taking a beat. And I am now so intentional about savoring the victories because it is and what has been helpful to me is that my team needs and deserves me to slow down and pause and for us to savor because everything that happens to me happens to us and because of us. But that has been, similar to your daughter initiating, you into a time of like, let me look at how I'm going to do this differently. I really think that has been a big gateway for me around, first of all, noticing how quickly I will take a victory and run right past it to the next thing. And two, how important it is to slow down and savor for myself and for everybody who's part of it.
I love that you said that because, I just a few weeks ago did a class for high achieving women who don't feel super free or fulfilled. And one of the biggest, like the top 5 characteristics is I hit a goal, I celebrate for a nanosecond, and then I'm on to what's next. What's the
Mm-hmm.
next thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, any of these, what I call compensatory strategies, they have their addictive properties. And the system doesn't feel safe unless we're in the pattern and in the habit. So I acknowledge you and I love that you're breaking free of that because isn't it nice to actually celebrate?
Right. Right. It is. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And the converse is that then in doing that, then the failures sting less as well, right? Because the failures then, if the victories aren't totally mine, then the failures also aren't totally mine. Like they're part of something else. So it helps me shift out of all of like, just helps me feel more solid on my inside that nothing about me is contingent on the next win or the next loss because there's going to be more of all of it.
There is. And, I love to look at failures as redirection, right? So the universe is consistently, directing us, redirecting us. And again, from my perspective, take it or leave it. If we look at universe, source, God, whatever we're doing, use, there's not like good, bad, right? It's not like the universe is like, yay, you did a 6-figure launch or boo, that book's, failed miserably. It's more like, here is this beautiful being, Alexandra, and want love and truth to express through her. This isn't quite it. We got to move her more this way. Right. And that has been a really helpful way for me to look at any perceived failure or loss is, okay, what did I learn? Because there's really practical things you learn, like that email sequence didn't work.
Yeah.
That ad
Yeah.
strategy didn't work. There's like the super practical level of that. And then there is like, well, gosh, what is this teaching me? How was I? What beliefs was I running? Like, did I really want to do this? Where is it redirecting me from? So one of the most helpful energetics or qualities that I love to coach people into during a perceived loss or failure is curiosity. Like just really being curious, not from like a self-blame, what did I do wrong place? Because again, that's going to trigger all our protective patterns whenever we feel like we did something wrong and we're in trouble and blah, blah, blah. But I just love the energy of curiosity, of like
Mm-hmm.
curiosity. It's such a sweet, beautiful quality that I
It
think we
is.
as adults don't get into.
Oh my God. I feel like that is the word that I use all the freaking time because it is, you cannot be in shame and curiosity and you cannot be in blame and curiosity. Yeah. And curiosity, right. That is the gateway to that really neutral energy you're describing when something doesn't go well, it's a redirection. So then it's like, okay, let me be curious. Let me be curious about how I ended up here, what didn't work about that, and then what that means, what I get to do now. If it's not this, then what do I get to do? And being curious about it. Oh, Christine, this has been fantastic. I feel like I got some really high quality coaching from you in this conversation as I've been walking you through my questions. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on Reimagining Love.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you so much for the work that you do. I learned so much from you as well.
Thank you. Will you tell everybody, where do you want people to go to learn more about your work?
Well, I actually have a retreat coming up for women, October 17th through 19th in San Diego. It's my deepest and most favorite work. And I think more than ever, we need in-person connection. It's not the kind of retreat you come and take notes and listen to me talk. It's an experiential embodiment, somatic, like initiation into your highest and best self. It's absolutely extraordinary. So you can go to christinehassler.com/retreat for that. My podcast that you mentioned, it's called Life Coaching with Christine Hassler. I have amazing guests like you once a week. And then once a week, I also air an unscripted, unedited life coaching session. So you can actually be a fly on the wall for someone else's session. And then Instagram and website is my name.
Wonderful. We will have links to all of that in the show notes, including the retreat, which sounds fantastic. Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Christine, for that honest and empowering conversation. I love the reminder that true intimacy comes not from perfection or harmony, but from growth through self-awareness and often from uncomfortable or confronting conversations. I believe that our capacity for growth is vast. It might just not feel good or be particularly easy the whole time. To learn more about Christine Hassler's work, you can find links in the show notes. Until next time, be well. Do you have a relationship question that you want answered on the show? Visit reimagininglove.com to send in a written or audio question. Questions can be about intimate partnerships, family relationships, friendships, you name it. If you're looking for more love and relationship content, you can find me on Instagram at dr.alexandra.solomon or visit my website, dralexandrasolomon.com, where you'll find my blog as well as the Intimate Relationships 101 e-course based off of the popular class I teach at Northwestern University. Thank you for listening and see you next week here on Reimagining Love.